Welcome, DGX family, to this very quick review of the DGX 670 and the philosophies to get really great with your DGX machine. First of all, let me say congrats on you getting the DGX 670. I remember walking into that store at Guitar Center, seeing this keyboard, big and bulky, and I wondered, well, this is probably going to be 2 grand at least. I ain't buying this, but let me test it out. And I sat down and played the keyboard, and I played an electric piano with one of these ballads. And my goodness, it just blew me away. I love the performance that I was able to generate. People were in the store looking at me, wondering, oh, which keyboard is this? I made that keyboard come to life. Now, I'm grateful that I had experience from way back in the 80s playing those old Casios that had the fingering things going on there. So I knew how to use the fingering functionality on any keyboard. But getting to the DGX, the sound was so more superior than anything I had experienced. And I decided I got to buy this keyboard. How much is it? I could not believe when the store manager said it's 850 bucks, but we got it on sale for 100 bucks less, 750. You kidding me? I signed up to get that keyboard that same day. I said, ship me one out. But before you do that, let me commit to trading in my old keyboard. So I had a Korg SP200, traded that in. I had this Tumba drum, traded that in. I had some other equipment like drum mics and stuff from the days I used to play with bands and stuff. And I traded those in, and I ended up paying about $100. That was one of the best buys I'd ever made in my career. Brought the thing home and played that keyboard. I couldn't believe, pinch me. This is too crazy for $700, and all I traded in for just 100. My life changed with that keyboard. I'm telling you, because you got to understand why I bought the keyboard. I bought the keyboard to amuse myself. You got to remember, I already had a grand piano. I have a Kawaii baby grand that, I can do all my practice and stuff on, but I also have a Motif XF8, and I also have a Korg Trident, the classic. So I wasn't really looking for sounds. What I was looking for was the performance mode. When I played the intros, I got wildly excited. Now, you got to remember, I was kind of out of commission for a while. If you take a look at the history of this channel, I was kind of out of commission for a while because life comes at you and there are things that you don't even care about no more. Like when COVID hit, everyone went out in their different directions. So you got to remember, this is the aftermath, just getting back to being on the road and stuff. So when I realized this keyboard could play the part of a backing band, I was blown away, and I decided that's what it's going to be. I'm going to get this keyboard and I'm going to amuse myself and play to my heart's content. And that's what I've been doing until I realized people were getting stuck. People were in DGX jail. Maybe you're in DGX jail. If you are in DGX jail, I want to know what is holding you back on this instrument. What have you tried to do that you're not getting any fun with, that you're not getting any love out of the instrument from, right? I want to know so I can help you, because I have lots of experience, not on the technology of today. I'm old school. So you got to remember, I come from that 2.5-inch reel world, when you have to drop people in to make the recording sound different. ADAT at best. When things evolved, then ADAT came on the scene. Then it came down to the cassette tape machines, right, from Tascam and so on. And that was the high tech back then. And then all of a sudden things began to change. Now went digital and the world changed. And that's why when I approach music in general, I feel that there's no excuse. When people blame the instrument, I feel there's no excuse, because you have everything at your fingertips. You want a bass sound, you got it. You want a slap bass, you got it. You want strings, you got it. Think about the 1940s and 30s and 60s. They didn't have all that stuff back then. You needed real players, and to make the recording sound clean was a struggle. The struggle was real. I remember studio sessions where the background noise just makes you stop for a second, and then you have to do a bunch of things to get rid of it. Now, with a DGX 670 and a DAW, a digital audio workstation, you can get any arrangement you want. I have high-end keyboards and high-end VSTs. Let's be honest, the recordings of the 60s still impress you. Why? It's the feel behind the recordings. It's not the specific instrument. You couldn't care less what Stevie was playing on Superstition, but it sounded good. And that's what I'm getting at. My question to you is, what's stopping you with your DGX? But maybe we should back up. I shared with you my vision for the DGX. What is your vision for the DGX 670 that you own? Do you want to do studio recordings with it? Do you just want to amuse yourself and have a good time? Do you just want to touch a button and hear the music that's inbuilt play? Do you want to create complex arrangements? Do you want to create music and upload the music to the web for casual listening? Or do you want to release CDs, or, well, who does CDs anymore? Do you want to put music out, period? Do you want to go on Spotify? Do you want to go Apple? What do you want to do with your DGX? Because the sky is the limit for whatever you want to do. And that's why today we're going to take a look at the DGX 670 manual, and I'm going to share with you insights that might help open your mind, take you into the wormhole of creativity, so that whatever you do, you don't feel limited by the instrument. You don't feel held back. Now, it's not to say you wouldn't have obstacles and things blocking your way, but you always need to anchor back to the why behind the instrument. So for me, I just want to jam, have a good time. I'm having fun doing that. I'm having a blast doing that. And along the way, I realized I could create stuff that I could actually put there on the web for people to listen to. I realized I could play around with my VSTs and other effects, and I could create on the fly. I love creating songs on the fly. So I plug in the mic and I begin to sing a song, and boom, I've got a ready accompaniment. And the accompaniment fuels my creativity. Maybe that's why you got it. So I want us to keep things in focus so that as you put in your comments as to what is stopping you, you'll truly be able to see what is the big ticket item that you need to resolve immediately. All right, so let's go to the DGX 670 manual. All right, let's go to the manual and let's zoom in a little bit so that we can see the contents. So I'm going to speak to the contents casually. Piano room. Great. The piano room, it allows you jump straight into an environment where you can mimic playing a piano in different rooms, different halls, different venues. And that's all I have to say about that. I don't get crazy about the piano room. It's there, but I like tweaking my piano sounds even more. So if you check the channel, you see where I have tweaked piano sounds to be even like so much more different. You can layer a couple of pianos on each other and you can get mind-blowing sound. You can pan them. Stuff that I generally wouldn't even try to do in the piano room, I can do it outside. So piano room is good, right? I haven't had a lot of trouble with the piano room, thank goodness. Let's go to voices. Voices, voice characteristics, metronome settings, and so on. What can I say? Oh, the piano voices are okay. They're good. When you tweak them, they sound even better, right? Getting into voice characteristics, again, I'm a simple guy. I like simple. I don't like difficult. A lot of these definitions, honestly, I like what Chicorea said. He said, if it sounds good. When I met him at Cabot Hall in London, he said, if it sounds good, play it. That's what I'm about. So I'm not fixing to spend all my days going over this big old manual. The question is, do I know where the sounds are? Do I appreciate the sounds? Can I apply reverb, delays, whatever? And yes, right? Regarding the metronome settings, I'm not very pleased with the metronome settings as it pertains to the USB audio, because whenever I'm recording with USB audio, I have to stop using the USB and use the speakers because the metronome sound is not coming through the USB. That is something that probably has a workaround or something they could fix, but I'm not going to get bent out of shape about it. See, I find a workaround. That's what I would suggest. So one of the things I find really cool about the DGX 670 is it allows you tweak multiple effects. You can put a chorus, you can put reverb, you can even compress. And honestly, in my mind, that is more than enough for this instrument. It's more than enough. I mean, what are you trying to do? Are you so if I'm playing to amuse myself, I don't need to go crazy on, well, I can't do this effect and this effect, right? Or if I want to record, I just do it in the DAW. I just do it in the DAW. Why do I need to bother myself trying to do everything in the DGX? Quit trying to do everything in the DGX and do it in the DAW. Do it in the digital audio workstation. Enough said. All right. Regarding pitch related settings, you can change pitch. And, if you're playing with a live instrument that needs a little bit of a tune, right? Pitch related settings, you can fine tune the pitch there, right? So it says use the master tune buttons to set the tune in 0.2 hertz steps. And I've had to do that in the past because I've found instruments that are totally off, and that's understandable. All right, styles. I would highly recommend you watch my videos on styles where I show you how to create your own style. I think the styles functionality is really great, but you have to be patient to learn it. Like over here, it has creating, editing style, style creator. And if you look at this manual, it looks rather complex. But I have videos that break it down so that you're not pulling your hair out. Just the cursors alone. Just seeing the cursors like this, my friends, this takes me around the bend. I can't keep reading this. I can't. I just please show me the keyboard and don't take me through manual hell, because this is manual hell as far as I'm concerned. While the manual has some great uses, I love the manual, but sometimes you don't want to read the manual. You just like show me. And that's why I have some videos on the styles. Regarding the songs, I don't really use this functionality very much, but I have created a very elaborate song, one of Stevie Wonder's songs, Superstition. I recorded the entire thing because I really wanted to know how far the DGX 670 could go, and I do commend it. It can hold up. It takes all the instruments. If you haven't listened to my version of Stevie Wonder Superstition I did with 670, you should, because it shows you the possibilities. It's not something I'm going to repeat in the DGX because I can do other things in the DAW, but it shows me what's capable. USB audio player and recorder. If you haven't watched my videos on USB, just search the channel for USB audio. I show you how to play a USB file from a USB drive. I show you how to record what you're performing to USB as well in another video. Microphone, I've also demoed this. You can plug your mic in and the DGX can record your performance with a mic. It can also record your performance with an instrument. So if you plug in a guitar instead of a microphone, you'll be able to record all that stuff to USB. Pretty impressive. Registration memory playlist. I have demoed this once. So you've got different banks and you've got different memories. And if you're really keen on saving a lot of your settings, then I would advise you that you should read this piece. Registration memory playlist. Again, this is something that I have shown once or twice on the channel, but I try not to get too deep into it because my taste for the instrument and the tweaks are always changing. But one of the things I have saved, the two things I have saved, one is the soprano sax after I tweaked it, and the other is the CFX Grand. So whatever you play most frequently, no harm, no foul, in just having that in the memory banks. The mixer. Now this is one thing that I must say I love about this keyboard. This gives me more control than what I get on my Motif $4,000 keyboard. And I mean, when I say more control, I like it being at my fingertips and I'm able to just zap it like immediately. I can't do this on my Motif. But on the DGX, within a short period of time, I mastered the ability to move between volume and pan and get into effect and EQ and master EQ all at the touch of a few buttons. just tabbing over. Are you kidding me? And then for the style, when you use the style mixer, you have each of the channels in the style at your fingertips. You can pan each one, just like a real mixer. You got the levels of each one, and then you can put in the EQ as you see fit. Right now, we're looking at the mixer functionality for, this is just the main keyboard, the left, and the layer. So you know you can split your keyboard into left, main, and layer. Here we can also see we got volume for song. We've also got volume for audio and volume for style. This is a lot of firepower of control. So this is one thing they did get right. I got to give them kudos for that. Then the next on the menu, you've got the editing the filter parameters. I really don't mess with this very much. Then you've got the editing effects. I play with this almost every day I play because it has the reverb, right? It has a chorus effect and the hall or the delay, depending on what you're doing. But I've found this to be so important for, especially when I play the horns or the pianos. I use those ambient effects a lot. Then we go to the effects. So if you hit enter when you are in effect, it takes you over to this. And over here, you can see you got all of these effects to choose from, all of these reverb options, and so on. Pretty impressive. I mean, it has more firepower than I would probably use directly on the keyboard. And it has the ability to save. Again, this is not something I get crazy about because every day I'm hearing my instruments new. So I create things new. Make the food fresh. I like making mine fresh. All right. And then the next tab has the EQ. Like I said, you can tweak up the EQs high and low. All right. And it just makes the options more robust, more possibilities. Then we have the master EQ. I generally don't mess with it because if I really want to do something like, the highest end possible, I'm going to mix it down in the DAW, right? I'm going to take the sound raw from here, mix it down in the DAW, and then I'm going to master it. At a minimum, I'm going to master that thing in Lander. So if you guys haven't used Lander, I would recommend checking it out because it's cheap, it's effective, especially if the job you're doing is something that you have a lot of auditory control over, a lot of engineering control over, then you just make sure your mix is clean. And then the mastering with Lander is just the icing on the cake because you've already done all your homework in the DAW. So again, I like simple. I know a lot of people like complex. They thrive on complex. No, DGX already has that learning curve. I don't want to kill myself with DGX. So I make it simple, keep it simple. I don't touch the master EQ very often, maybe just to show what it can do. And I know some people don't have a DAW, and that's understandable. You do your mic recording in the keyboard. This would be something you could use, right? We got all these EQ types: normal, light, heavy, mellow, bright, which is very good. They really thought this out because in a lot of places, people don't have access to high powered computers. They don't have the 16 gigabyte RAM, and therefore they're not able to effectively record audio, instruments, and so on. So something like this could help anyone who is in that category. Here we have the compressor. Again, I do not use the compressor. Try to stay away from it, but if you needed it, all that firepower is there, which is pretty impressive. And then it gets into the connections. If you haven't watched my video on MIDI, because MIDI is a whole different ball game with this thing, watch my videos on MIDI where I show you how to silence MIDI tracks from the style and how to use that if you wanted to do some elaborate recording. I usually recommend do not substitute the sounds on the DGX for your MIDI sounds because apart from it being like a wild goose chase, at the end of the day, it still won't sound as great because these are matched in a particular way from Yamaha They're so meshed and interwoven that when you bring in other VSTs that have new sounds, I've noticed it doesn't mesh as well. All right, so here we have the MIDI settings. And as you can see, I'll put a link to this manual if you don't have it so you can see what I'm working with here. But we have pre-programmed templates here that we could use. I normally just go with keyboard and style or all parts. I try to leave everything on, try not to mess with it because I don't want any inadvertent episodes where I'm scratching my head about the weirdness I'm getting from my DAW. And that has happened in the past where everything played in unison. I couldn't get it to play. So instead of playing an F chord with an F bass, it would play an F chord on a C bass, a G sharp chord on a C bass, an A chord and a C bass. It just drove me nuts using the style. So you want to be careful what you do with MIDI. Make sure you know MIDI really well before you go playing it, because if you change anything in MIDI and you don't know what you've changed and it's causing some weird effect, it's causing some weird sound, you're not going to like it. And it takes a long time to troubleshoot and resolve. All right, let's go back to the start and let's see if we forgot anything. Okay, so we got mixer we talked about, then MIDI, and then goes back to showing you an overview of the menu. So with that said, my friends, the DGX 670 is not overwhelming. Do not allow the DGX 670 to control you. You decide. I'm going to give you options. What do I want to do with my DGX? A, music production. I want to take sounds from my DGX. I want to doctor them up. I want to create new styles on my DGX, and I want to take those into a DAW, and I want to produce high-class, world-class music production. I want vocals. I want everything else that comes with music to interact with my DGX 670. If that's you, you need a digital audio workstation. Get a DAW. Learn how to get the audio output from the USB directly into your DAW. That's what I've realized works best, clean. So do that and just experiment as you go along. Try to separate the tracks in style, because in style you have, I don't think it showed it in the manual, unfortunately. In the style, you got 8 possible voices. There's a way you can silence them, but you can also sync the start of the style so that you can actually record buckets of instruments. It doesn't have to be everything all at once. But anyway, that's something for you to experiment with, but you can really separate sounds. So if that's you, if you want to do it for music production, sky's the limit. Keep learning. Try the simplest solution first. Always ask the question, how can I distill this to the simplest thing on the DGX? Always think that. Don't go for the difficult route. Go for the simplest route that delivers the same result or even better. Okay. The next kind of person that buys a DGX is the person who buys it because they got to perform in some either religious institution or on stage with a band, but they need to play live for people's enjoyment. Sky's the limit. I just feel bad that you're going to have to be moving it up and down all over the place because it's a bulky instrument. So just be careful as you move it up and down. But as far as playing live, if you've got the chops, you're going to have fun on that thing. It does bring a smile to people's faces when they hear it in action. So if that's you, more power to you. Another category, number 3, you bought the DGX to learn how to play piano, how to play keys. Fantastic. Keep learning, keep applying, keep doing, keep applying. Go back to a drawing board and just keep practicing, and you're going to get better and better. The keys might seem a little bit heavy for some people, but for me, because I like hitting the keys, the keys are just great. They're just okay for me. I didn't have any difficulty with the keys, but I've heard a lot of complaints about the keys. Okay. After that, I think the next wave of folks that buy a DGX are those who get a DGX because they just like the sound of it, the appearance of it. You ask them, why do you buy the DGX? They don't know. They may not even be keyboardists, but they feel I gotta learn music. So let me just buy something, right? And then they buy it and they don't really learn. They just want to like listen to it or play, or they're looking for someone to show up. I was that way with saxophones. I just love the instrument. Don't ask me why I bought it. I just love the instrument. So maybe that's you. I would say be patient with yourself, work it out, turn it on, and you can actually learn how to play basic songs. Like I have some videos on this channel. If you watch the videos and you practice what I'm telling you, you will come away at least playing some songs. Very basic stuff, familiar stuff, but you got to practice. Okay, so those will be the four categories of people who are trying to learn DGX or trying to do something with the DGX. If you're one of those, don't sweat it, don't fret it. Always look for the easiest solution and just have fun doing whatever you're doing. Okay, over the past number of minutes, we've been taking a look at the DGX 670 reference manual. So you got the reference manual, and I think you got one called the owner's manual or something to that effect. Great stuff in both. You got to be patient to get through it. But like I showed you at a high level, when you're approaching this instrument, try to compartmentalize your mind. What am I trying to do right now? What am I trying to do today? What am I looking to master? Right? And piano room, voices, styles, songs, USB audio, microphone, registration memory, mixer, connections, menu. Boom, 10 things. If you're able to focus, hyper focus on what do I need to be working on today on my DGX? What am I trying to achieve? And just go after that one thing and hit it hard, hit it heavy, do all the research, use Pilot if necessary when you're trying to query the Yamaha site, but stop at nothing, right? Because you spent time, money, and effort. If you got a problem, I want to see it in the chat. Don't try to solve it all on your own. Don't struggle all on your own. I want to know where you're stuck. All right. If you're stuck, as they say, stuck stinks. So let's get you out of the stuck state. Thank you very much. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon in another episode. We should probably call this DGX General Hospital or something. See you in the next episode.